All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to the full story on WYAB 103.9 as we get to our next story. So, as we close out the year, I always like to look at the word of the year. So, the Oxford University Press usually picks a English word that has been culturally relevant. They put it up to about 35,000 people, 35,000 different votes to determine what the word of the year is. And sometimes it's a new word, that enters the lexicon. Obviously, our English language is constantly evolving. It's one of the things about language. As we create new words, old words kind of die off a little bit, or their uses get lost. But words that have kind of old that have new meaning or have kind of re-entered. And one of those is brain rot. So brain rot is Oxford University Press's 2024 word of the year. And according to the dictionary, the Oxford University Press, I should say, brain rot is defined as the supposed deterioration of a person's mental or intellectual state, especially viewed as a result of overconsumption of material, now particularly online content, considered to be trivial and unchallenging. Also, something characterized as likely to lead to deterioration. Their experts noticed that brain rot gained new prominence this year as a term used to capture concerns about the impact of consuming excessive amounts of low-quality online content, especially on social media. The term increased in usage frequency by 230% between 2023 and 2024. And of course, you'll never get useless content from us. I just had a call asking about our social media. And I'm not as big on social media as some of the other shows are, particularly for this reason. I try not to spend all my time on social media. I try to do other pursuits. But as always, you can find this show on regulatorsproductions.com. We can find all of our links to that. But there is no useless, mindless content on there. Only good content that we put on. And it's not as much, right? I try to put content only on there that is something that can be beneficial. In fact, it's kind of interesting. So we stream to YouTube and Rumble, and the service we use is a service called Restream. And they have a part of this thing that they do is that after you upload it or after you go live, they save it and they can pick out like certain clips from it. And they can tell you how viral it can be. And I will tell you that most of the clips here, they say, is very little viral to them because there's no funny dancing. There's no funny dancing going on in the studio, and it covers complex topics of great importance, but of little value to be viral. And it's not here to be viral. We're here to be informative, and we're here to make sure that we cover stories to the effect. It's called The Full Story, of course, to cover these stories fully, so you can make a determined opinion. And of course, I'll put my own flavor to it, my own opinion to it. But most importantly, our bottom line is you got to know before you can have an opinion. But the first recorded use of brain rot was found in 1854, believe it or not, in Henry David Thoreau's book Walden, which reports his experience of living a simple lifestyle in the natural world. As part of his conclusions, Thoreau criticizes society's tendency to devalue complex ideas or those that can be interpreted in multiple ways in favor of simple ones, and sees this as indicative of a general decline in mental and intellectual effort. He said, while England endeavors to cure the potato rot, will not any endeavor to cure the brain rot, which so prevails so much more widely and fatally. So again, losing that critical thinking is what Henry David Thoreau was thinking, was writing about. And the same thing happens here, right? As people just mindlessly scroll through things like TikTok or Instagram or the Facebook shorts, they're not actually getting informed about anything, first off. And they are, their minds are completely turned off to any kind of critical thinking. Now, that's not to say, now don't get me wrong, right? Your mind shouldn't always need to be always critically thinking, okay? It's okay to take a break. It's okay to relax your mind. However you may do that, right? Whether that's listening to music or watching TV. There's nothing wrong with watching a little TV. Or doing any of those things. The idea of any of this, right, is doing it in in useful amounts, not overdoing it. Like anything, right? Having a glass of wine is fine. Having 3 bottles of it, not so much. Okay, it's the same type of thing. Is having that little bit of control about yourself. But the term has taken on new significance in the digital age, especially over the last 12 months. Initially gaining traction on social media platform, particularly on TikTok, among Gen Z and Gen Alpha communities, brain rot is now seeing more widespread use, such as in mainstream journalism, amidst social concerns about the negative impact of over-consuming online content. In 2024, brain rot is used to describe both the cause and effect of this, referring to the low quality, low value content found on social media and the internet, as well as the subsequent negative impact that consuming this type of content is perceived to have on an individual or society. It has also been used more specifically and consistently in reference to online culture. Often used in a humorous or self-deprecating manner by online communities, it is strongly associated with certain types of content, including creator Alexei Grishanov's viral Skibidi toilet video series. I'm not making this up. This is actually coming from Oxford University Press. They're the ones saying this, which feature humanoid toilets. That's a big thing he has. That's his content as people just scroll looking at humanoid toilets. I could say that's probably brain rot. That's probably not doing much for you on that, especially if you're just continuously watching all of the humanoid toilets. But as well as the user-generated only on Ohio memes, which reference bizarre incidents in the state. This content has given rise to the emerging brain rot language, such as skibidi, meaning something nonsensical, and Ohio, meaning something embarrassing or weird, which reflects a growing trend of words originating in viral online culture before spreading offline into the real world. It is interesting, like I said, to see how this effect is on our society. So a bunch of people are talking about it. This is also coming as a flurry of TikToks document bed rotting, which is essentially sitting in your bed just scrolling, which is also something that has become more and more of a activity. I don't know if you call that an activity. I think it's called an anti-activity, is maybe the best way to say it. But the activities of brain rot and all this, according to some experts, are about checking out of your reality, whatever your reality is at the moment, and checking into the often good feeling of doing nothing. So again, a lot of this, I think, too, has to do, and we talk a lot about society, we talk a lot about generational change, and a big part is there has, with younger generations, and the millennial generation is interesting, is that it's the first generation in American history to be worse off than the generation before it. And that can be something that's hard to understand why you do not have the living standard that your parents had before you, despite the fact that you have a college degree, despite that you look like you've done everything right on paper, yet you are still in a worse place off than your parents. Now, some of that is due to people themselves, right? The people themselves being lazier than prior generations, especially much older generations, not having that drive to get up and do it, right? They want to bed rot. But also, too, there's no doubt that our economy and how our financial system has worked the last few years has not been to the benefit to a lot of people. It's benefited a lot of very wealthy people, but it's had detrimental effects to a greater part of society, which is part of the populism that rises, that brought Donald Trump to such brought Trump to so much broader appeal amongst different races, is because what we've seen is that the effects of this poor economy and inflation affects multiple people of multiple races, and multiple generations. And again, it's for a lot of young people, When I say young people, millennials aren't that young anymore. Millennials are into their 40s now. The older millennials. Um, down to I think the youngest millennials, the youngest millennials may be right at 30 now. So millennials aren't really in their most millennials aren't in their 20s anymore. Yet despite that, it is they haven't had that same life. They haven't the life has been delayed for a lot of them, and it's hard to understand why for them why that is. So instead of picking themselves up by the bootstraps, right? Which is what maybe a prior generation would have done. They brain rot. They just want to disconnect from society. And again, there's nothing wrong with doing that every once in a while. There's nothing wrong with disconnecting. In fact, I think it's healthy for your brain to do that every so often. Just kind of disconnect yourself. That's why a good movie. There's nothing wrong with a good movie, right? To watch a good movie, or to enjoy a good series, or to enjoy a book, or to watch some of these videos, right? Like it's okay to watch stupid videos. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is when you do it incessantly, when you do it as something that you only do, right? You're not doing other endeavors. You're not volunteering. You're not doing any other productive activities, right? You just work. If you work, a lot of these people. That's another problem. Is that a lot of these people are not working. They sit at home and they just do the brain rotting activities. They do not they don't participate in a society at all, which again is partially funded by the fact that we have all these handouts that the government is giving. Well, there's no incentive for them to work. They just take that government check and then brain rot and then bed rot, right? So that's a piece of it. But and a lot of it too is just again, there's not that motivation because in their minds, they see it again as why try when the system is against me, or why try when everything I do doesn't matter? I'm still going to fail. Again, in prior generation, it would have been, no, I'm gonna push forward, right? I can't give up, or else I'm going to starve. First off, but I'm going to push forward to it. Whereas for a lot of people now, they take this this is becoming a detrimental thing where it's all they do, or it's 90% of their time, and they're not becoming productive members of society, and that hurts society as a whole.